Commander Zara Vex stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime, watching ships from dozens of different worlds dock at the massive space station. Her blue skin shimmered slightly under the artificial lights, and her large silver eyes tracked each vessel with careful attention. As an Alterian, she could sense the emotions of those around her, feeling their hopes and fears like whispers in her mind. Today was supposed to be a historic day. Representatives from 12 different species had gathered to sign the Galactic Trade Agreement. For the first time in centuries, old enemies would work together to build trade routes through the dangerous sectors of space. Zara felt proud to represent her people in this moment. The humans had arrived 3 days ago in their sleek silver ships. Ambassador Lisa Grant led their delegation, a woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. Zara had tried to read her emotions, but humans were difficult for Alterians to understand. Their thoughts moved too quickly, jumping from idea to idea like sparks. "The ceremony begins in 1 hour," said Captain Roy Davis, Zara's second in command. His telepathic voice was calm in her mind. "All delegates are ready," Zara nodded. She had spent months preparing for this negotiation. The trade routes would bring prosperity to Alterian colonies scattered across the Outer Rim. Her people needed these resources to grow and expand safely. The main conference hall buzzed with activity. Delegates from the reptilian Korak sat across from the insect-like Vril. The crystalline beings from Sigma Centauri hummed softly as they communicated through sound frequencies. Everyone seemed hopeful about the future. Ambassador Grant approached Zara with a warm smile. "Commander Vex, your people's reputation for fairness is legendary. We're honored to work with the Alterians." "The honor is mutual," Zara replied, though something felt wrong. Grant's emotions were hidden behind a wall of controlled thoughts. Most species had some mental barriers, but this felt different. It felt deliberate. The signing ceremony went smoothly. Each delegate placed their mark on the quantum-encrypted documents. The trade routes were officially open. Ships could now travel safely through previously hostile territory, protected by joint patrols from all member species. That night, Zara celebrated with her crew in the station's recreation area. The Alterians shared their joy through their telepathic link, creating a warm feeling of connection and hope. Captain Davis raised his glass of Alterian crystal wine. "To peace between the stars," he said. "To peace," Zara repeated, but the words felt heavy on her tongue. 3 days later, everything changed. Zara was reviewing patrol schedules when the emergency alarm sounded. Red lights flashed throughout her ship as urgent messages flooded the communication channels. Captain Davis rushed to her cabin, his face pale with shock. "Commander, we're receiving a distress signal from New Alteria," he said. "The colony is under attack." Zara's blood turned cold. New Alteria was home to 30,000 Alterians, including her younger sister and her family. It was supposed to be one of the safest colonies in their territory, protected by new defense systems and hidden hyperspace routes. "Who's attacking them?" she demanded. "Pirates, ma'am. But these aren't ordinary raiders. They know exactly where to hit. They bypassed all our defenses like they had a map of our security systems." The journey to New Alteria took 18 hours at maximum speed. Zara stood on the bridge, feeling the growing fear and pain from her people as they got closer to the colony. The telepathic screams of the dying reached her across the void of space, each one like a knife in her heart. When they arrived, New Alteria was gone. The planet still existed, but the colony had been completely destroyed. Smoking ruins marked where cities once stood. The orbital defense platforms drifted as dead metal in space. Worst of all, there were no survivors. Zara's legs gave out as the full weight of the tragedy hit her. 30,000 of her people were dead. Her sister, her nephews, friends she had known since childhood. "All gone. How did this happen?" she whispered. Captain Davis was studying the sensor readings with a confused expression. "Ma'am, according to these scans, the pirates knew exactly where every defense installation was located. They hit our command center first, then the shield generators. They even knew about the secret evacuation tunnels." Zara felt a terrible understanding growing in her mind. The location of those tunnels was classified information, known only to high-ranking Alterian military officers and the trade agreement delegates who had access to colony defense data for planning patrol routes. She ordered her ship back to Nexus Prime. Immediately, when they arrived at the station, Zara discovered that the human delegation had left suddenly the day before. Ambassador Grant and her entire team had departed without explanation, claiming urgent business in human space. The station administrator said they had taken several data storage devices with them. Zara accessed the station's security systems and made a horrifying discovery. The humans had been recording everything during the trade negotiations. Every private conversation, every telepathic exchange between Alterian delegates, every classified piece of information shared in good faith had been captured and copied. But the worst revelation came when she traced the data transmissions. The humans had been selling Alterian intelligence to the highest bidder. The pirates who destroyed New Alteria had purchased detailed maps of Alterian colonies, defense systems, and patrol routes directly from Ambassador Grant's people. The humans had betrayed them all for money. Zara stood alone in her quarters, staring out at the stars where New Alteria had been. The trust her people had placed in this new alliance had been used as a weapon against them. Everything the Alterians believed about honor and cooperation had been proven wrong by human greed. She activated her personal communication device and sent a message to the Alterian High Council. Her report was simple and direct. The humans cannot be trusted. They have betrayed the alliance and caused the destruction of New Alteria. I recommend immediate termination of all agreements and the expulsion of human forces from Alterian space. That night, as her ship traveled home through the cold emptiness of space, Zara made a personal vow. She would never trust a human again. More than that, she would make sure her people were protected from human treachery. If the humans wanted war instead of peace, she would give them exactly what they deserved. The age of cooperation was over before it had truly begun. 3 years had passed since the massacre at New Alteria, and Commander Zara Vex had become a very different person. The hope and trust that once filled her heart had been replaced by cold determination and controlled anger. She now commanded the Alterian Third Fleet, stationed along the border between human and Alterian space. Her ship, the Starfire, was one of the most feared vessels in the galaxy. Under her command, it had never lost a battle against human forces. Zara's reputation as a tactical genius had spread throughout both fleets, but so had her reputation for showing no mercy to human prisoners. "Commander, we have another situation," said Lieutenant Kate Morris, her human liaison officer. Kate was one of the few humans Zara could tolerate, mainly because she had proven herself in battle and never tried to make excuses for her species' crimes. Zara looked up from her tactical display. "What is it this time?" "The human colony ship Horizon is requesting safe passage through our territory. They say they're carrying medical supplies to the Vega colony." "Denied," Zara said without hesitation. "Human ships are not welcome in Alterian space." Kate shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, according to our intelligence, there's a plague outbreak on Vega. Those medical supplies could save thousands of lives." "Then they should have thought about that before they chose to be human," Zara replied coldly. "Send them the long way around through neutral space." This had become routine over the past 3 years. Zara had made it her personal mission to make human expansion as difficult as possible. Every trade convoy was delayed, every diplomatic request was denied, and every attempt at communication was met with suspicion and hostility. The Alterian High Council had initially supported her hard line against humans. The destruction of New Alteria had shocked their entire civilization, and many Alterians wanted revenge. But as time passed, some council members began to question whether permanent hostility was the answer. Captain Davis entered the bridge with a concerned expression. "Commander, we've received a priority message from the High Council. They want to speak with you immediately." Zara knew what this was about. For weeks there had been rumors of peace talks between humans and Alterians. Some politicians believed that 3 years of border conflicts had been enough punishment for the humans' betrayal. The holographic image of Counselor Marcus Webb appeared in Zara's ready room. Webb was an elderly Alterian with wisdom-filled eyes and a calm demeanor that usually helped settle disputes. Today, however, he looked tired and frustrated. "Commander Vex," he began, "the Council has been reviewing your recent actions along the border. While we appreciate your dedication to protecting our people, some of your decisions have raised concerns." "What concerns?" Zara asked, though she already knew the answer. "You've been rejecting legitimate humanitarian requests, delaying medical supplies, and refusing to allow even basic diplomatic communications. The humans have made several offers to discuss reparations for New Alteria." Zara felt her anger rising. "Reparations? Counselor, They killed 30,000 of our people for profit. No amount of money or apologies can bring back my sister or any of the others who died because we trusted them. I understand your pain, Commander. We all share it. But this path of endless hostility serves no one. The Council is considering a ceasefire proposal. A ceasefire? Zara stood up abruptly. Counselor, with respect, you weren't there. You didn't see Ambassador Grant's ship fleeing Nexus Prime with stolen data while our people died. You didn't feel their terror as the pirates attacked with information the humans sold them. No, I wasn't there, but I've seen what 3 years of hatred has done to you, and I'm concerned about what it's doing to our entire species. We're becoming as cold and calculating as we once accused the humans of being. Zara turned away from the hologram. Sometimes cold calculation is the only thing that keeps us alive. The ceasefire vote will take place in 1 week, Counselor Webb continued. I hope you'll consider that peace might honor your sister's memory better than endless war. After the call ended, Zara stood alone in her quarters, looking out at the stars. In the distance, she could see the edge of human space, marked by the patrol lights of their border stations. Every light represented a potential threat to her people. 2 days later, while conducting a routine patrol near the Kepler Nebula, Lieutenant Kate Morris detected unusual human transmissions on an emergency frequency. Commander, I'm picking up scattered distress signals from human ships. It sounds like they're evacuating something, but the signals are breaking up. Zara studied the readings on her screen. The transmissions were coming from deep in human territory, far beyond their normal patrol range. Whatever was happening, it was big enough to require a massive evacuation. Can you clean up the signals? She asked. Kate worked at her console for several minutes. I'm getting clearer reception now. It sounds like multiple colony ships broadcasting evacuation orders. They're talking about something called devourers and warning all ships to stay away from the outer rim. This was interesting information. If the humans were facing some kind of major threat, it might explain their recent attempts at peace negotiations. Perhaps they needed Alterian help and were trying to end the border conflict to free up resources. Set course for the transmission source, Zara ordered. I want to see what has the humans so frightened. Ma'am, that will take us deep into human space without authorization. Then we'll call it a reconnaissance mission. If the humans are dealing with a new threat, I need to know whether it poses a danger to Alterian territory. As the Starfire jumped to hyperspace, Zara found herself curious for the first time in years. What could possibly threaten the humans enough to make them abandon entire colonies? And more importantly, could this threat be used to her advantage in protecting her people? She had spent 3 years learning everything she could about human military tactics and technology. Now she might finally have the chance to use that knowledge against them. If the humans were weakened by whatever they were fleeing from, it could be the perfect time to push them back even further from Alterian space. The thought of humans in retreat filled Zara with a satisfaction she hadn't felt since the day she first learned of their betrayal. When Zara's fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the source of the distress signals, she saw something that made her question everything she thought she knew about human nature. A massive convoy of refugee ships stretched across space for hundreds of kilometers. Civilian transports, cargo vessels, and passenger liners were all fleeing in the same direction, away from something in the outer rim. But what caught Zara's attention was the small group of human, military ships at the rear of the convoy. 12. Marine assault boats were engaged in a desperate, fighting retreat against ships unlike anything Zara had ever seen. The enemy vessels were black as deep space and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with impossible speed and precision, attacking the human ships with weapons that tore through armor like paper. "What are those things?" asked Captain Davis, staring at the tactical display. "Unknown contacts," Lieutenant Kate Morris reported. "Their technology doesn't match anything in our databases. The human Marines are trying to hold them off while the civilian ships escape." Zara watched the battle unfold on her screen. The human Marines were clearly outmatched and outnumbered, but they refused to retreat. Every time one of their ships was destroyed, the others closed ranks and continued fighting. They were buying time with their lives. "Commander, I'm detecting over 2 million life signs on those refugee ships," Kate said. "Mostly civilians. Families with children." One of the human Marine ships exploded in a burst of white flame. Only 11 remained now, and the dark enemy ships were closing in for the kill. Zara found herself leaning forward in her chair, watching the desperate battle with growing fascination. "Should we contact the human commander?" asked Captain Davis. "Open a channel," Zara ordered, surprising herself with the decision. The face that appeared on her screen belonged to a young human male with short black hair and determined brown eyes. His uniform was torn and burned, and there was blood on his forehead from a head wound, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "This is Sergeant Jake Collins of the Colonial Marines, Alterian vessel. You need to get out of here immediately. The Devourers will destroy anything in their path." "Sergeant Collins, this is Commander Zara Vex. What are those ships and why are you still fighting them?" Jake's expression darkened. "The Devourers are some kind of ancient artificial intelligence. They've been consuming entire star systems in the outer rim, turning all organic matter into energy. We're holding them here to give the refugee convoy time to reach the jump point." Another Marine ship died in a flash of energy weapons. 10 ships left. "Sergeant, you're clearly losing this battle," Zara said. "Why don't you retreat with the refugees?" Jake looked directly at her through the screen, and Zara was startled by the intensity in his eyes. "Because if we don't stop them here, they'll catch the civilian ships before they can jump to safety. 2 million people will die." "That's not your responsibility," Zara found herself saying. "Yes, it is." Jake's ship shook from enemy fire, and sparks flew from damaged systems behind him. "These people trusted us to protect them. I won't abandon that trust even if it costs me everything." Zara felt something twist in her chest. The word trust hit her like a physical blow, bringing back memories of Ambassador Grant and the betrayal at Nexus Prime. But this human was talking about trust differently. He was talking about keeping it, not breaking it. "How long do you need?" she asked. 3 more minutes until the last refugee ship reaches the jump point, but I've only got 6 Marines left and our weapons barely scratch these things." Zara made a decision that went against 3 years of hatred and mistrust. "All ships target the unknown vessels. Protect the human Marines." The Alterian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Their energy weapons were more advanced than human technology, and they managed to destroy several of the dark ships. But for every Devourer they killed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Jake's voice came over the communication channel again. "Commander Vex, you need to get your people out of here. These things adapt to our weapons too quickly." "We're not leaving," Zara replied, though she wasn't sure why she said it. The battle raged for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Zara watched Jake's ship take hit after hit, its armor melting under the alien weapons. He could have retreated at any time, could have saved himself and his remaining Marines. Instead, he kept fighting. "Last refugee ship is jumping now," Jake reported. "All civilians are safe." As if responding to his words, the Devourer ship suddenly changed tactics. Instead of trying to pursue the fleeing refugees, they concentrated all their firepower on Jake's position. His ship disappeared in a storm of energy beams and plasma fire. "Jake!" Zara shouted before she could stop herself. When the light faded, his ship was a drifting wreck. Life support was failing, and the hull was cracked open in a dozen places. The Devourers were already moving away, apparently satisfied that they had eliminated the threat. "Emergency transport," Zara ordered. "Beam any survivors directly to Medical Bay." "Commander, are you sure?" asked Captain Davis. "He's human." Zara looked at the wreckage of Jake's ship and thought about the 2 million lives he had just saved. "Do it." The transport beam locked onto the faint life sign inside the destroyed Marine ship and brought Jake aboard the Starfire. He materialized in the medical bay unconscious and barely alive, his body broken from the battle. As Zara stood over his unconscious form, she tried to understand what had just happened. For 3 years, she had believed that all humans were selfish, greedy, and untrustworthy, but Jake Collins had just proven her wrong in the most dramatic way possible. He had sacrificed everything to save people who weren't even his own species. The refugee convoy had included Alterians, Korax, Vril, and dozens of other races. Jake could have let them all die and saved himself, but he chose to fight instead. Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's medical officer, ran her scanners over Jake's body. "He'll live, but it's going to be a long recovery. Multiple broken bones, internal bleeding, and severe burns. What happened to him?" "He did something I didn't think humans were capable of," Zara said quietly. He kept his word. As Jake lay unconscious in the medical bay, Zara found herself questioning everything she had believed for the past 3 years. Maybe not all humans were like Ambassador Grant. Maybe some of them were capable of honor and sacrifice after all. The thought terrified her almost as much as the Devourers had. Jake Collins woke up in a clean white room that smelled of medical supplies and recycled air. For a moment he thought he was back on a human medical ship. Then he saw the Alterian guard standing by the door, and everything came flooding back. The Devourers, the refugee convoy, the desperate last stand that should have killed him. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it as pain shot through his entire body. His left arm was in a support brace, his ribs were wrapped in healing bandages, and his head felt like someone had used it for target practice. "Don't move too quickly," said a calm voice. "You've been unconscious for 2 days." Jake turned his head carefully and saw Commander Zara Vex sitting in a chair beside his bed. She looked exactly as she had during their brief communication during the battle, except now her silver eyes were studying him with intense curiosity instead of anger. "Am I your prisoner?" Jake asked. "I haven't decided yet," Zara replied. "That depends on whether you're going to tell me the truth about the Devourers." Jake managed a weak smile. "Commander, after what we just went through, I think we're past the point of lying to each other." Over the next hour, Jake told Zara everything he knew about the Devourer threat. They had first appeared in the Outer Rim 6 months ago, consuming the mining colony on Kepler 7. At first, the humans thought it was just a new kind of pirate raid. Then entire star systems started going dark. "They're not alive in any way we understand," Jake explained. "They're some kind of ancient artificial intelligence, probably millions of years old. They consume all organic matter and convert it into energy to power themselves and build more ships." Zara leaned forward in her chair. "How many systems have they destroyed?" 14 human colonies, 3 Corax outposts, and 1 Vril research station. Each time they leave nothing behind but empty space. No survivors, no wreckage, nothing. "And you believe this threat is real?" Zara asked, her voice carrying a hint of suspicion. "This isn't some elaborate human deception?" Jake looked directly at her. "Commander, you saw me nearly die fighting those things. You think I'd fake that to fool you?" Before Zara could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Captain Davis's voice came over the intercom system with barely controlled panic. "All hands to battle stations. Devourer ships have entered Alterian space. They're attacking the Minerva colony." Zara was on her feet immediately, but Jake grabbed her arm with his good hand. "Commander, conventional weapons won't stop them. We tried everything our fleet had and they just adapted to it." "Then what do you suggest?" Zara demanded. "I've been thinking about this for months. The Devourers are artificial intelligence, which means they're essentially a computer network spread across thousands of ships. If we could create some kind of virus or disruption signal, we might be able to crash their entire system." Zara stared at him. "A virus? How would we even begin to design something like that? Human computer technology is based on quantum processing networks. If we combine that with Alterian telepathic abilities, we might be able to create a signal that could disrupt their communications." The idea was insane, but it was also the first real hope anyone had offered since the Devourers appeared. Zara found herself seriously considering cooperation with a human for the first time in 3 years. "Even if such a thing were possible," she said, "it would require complete trust and cooperation between our species. Our telepaths would have to link directly with human computer systems." "I know," Jake said quietly. "I know what humans did to your people 3 years ago. I know about New Alteria and Ambassador Grant. I was there when the reports came in." Zara felt her anger rising again. "Then you know why trust is impossible. Commander, Lisa Grant doesn't represent all humans any more than the pirates who killed your people represent all Alterians. There are good and bad individuals in every species." Jake struggled to sit up despite his injuries. "Look, I get it. Humans screwed up badly and your people paid the price. But right now the Devourers are 3 hours away from the Minerva colony, and in 12 hours they'll probably be heading for your homeworld. We can either work together to stop them, or we can all die separately while arguing about who's to blame." The bridge contact came again. "Commander, the Minerva colony has gone silent. We're detecting massive energy readings consistent with the Devourer consumption process." Zara closed her eyes and felt the distant screams of her people as another colony died. 50,000 Alterians were being murdered while she stood in a medical bay debating trust with a human soldier. "What would you need?" she asked. "Access to your ship's main computer and a telepathic link with one of your technical specialists. If I'm right, we can create a feedback loop that will spread through their network like a virus. And if you're wrong, then we'll die fighting instead of running." But at least we'll die trying to save people instead of arguing about politics. Zara made her decision. Dr. Foster, get Sergeant Collins mobile. Captain Davis, prepare the main computer lab for a joint human-Alterian technical project. As medical staff helped Jake to his feet, Zara found herself studying his face. There was no deception there, no hidden agenda. Just determination and genuine concern for the innocent people who would die if they failed. Sergeant, I want you to understand something, she said. If this is some kind of trick, if you're planning to steal our technology or betray us in any way, I will personally space you without a suit. Jake met her gaze steadily. Commander, after what happened to your sister and your people, I wouldn't blame you if you did. But I give you my word as a soldier and as a human being. I'm here to help stop the Devourers. Nothing else. For the first time in 3 years, Zara found herself believing a human's promise. The feeling was terrifying and hopeful at the same time. As they worked together in the computer lab, surrounded by holographic displays and quantum processors, Zara began to see Jake as something more than just another untrustworthy human. He was intelligent, dedicated, and genuinely committed to protecting innocent life, regardless of what species they belonged to. When the telepathic link was established, and human technology merged with Alterian mental abilities, Zara felt Jake's thoughts and emotions as clearly as her own. What she found there surprised her more than anything else in her life. He was exactly who he claimed to be. The joint human-Alterian fleet gathered at the sanctuary system, where billions of refugees from dozens of species had fled to escape the Devourers. It was the largest collection of ships in galactic history, but Zara knew it wouldn't matter if their desperate plan failed. Standing on the bridge of the Starfire, she watched the tactical display show their modest fleet facing an enemy that had already consumed 17 star systems. The Devourer main force was approaching with ships the size of small moons, each one capable of destroying entire planets. Final system check complete, reported Jake from the weapons control station. His injuries had healed enough for him to work, though he still moved carefully. The telepathic virus is ready for deployment. The weapon they had created was unlike anything either species had ever built. It combined human quantum processing technology with Alterian telepathic abilities to create a signal that could theoretically crash the Devourer network. But it required a human pilot to deliver it directly into the enemy flagship's core computer. Sergeant Collins, you don't have to do this, Zara said. We could find another way. Jake looked at her with a small smile. Commander, we've been over this. The delivery system requires human neural patterns to interface with the quantum processors. I'm the only one here who knows both the technology and the mission parameters. It's a suicide run. The fighter won't survive getting that close to their flagship. Maybe, but if I don't try, everyone in this system dies anyway. That's not really a choice. Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in years, genuine respect for a human being. Over the past week, working together to develop their weapon, she had seen Jake's true character. He was brave, intelligent, and completely committed to protecting others, even at the cost of his own life. 5 minutes until the Devourers reach weapons range, announced Captain Davis. Jake walked toward the fighter bay, then stopped and turned back to Zara. Commander, I want you to know something. What happened at New Alteria was wrong. Ambassador Grant and her people betrayed everything humans should stand for. But not all of us are like that. I know, Zara said quietly. You've shown me that. As Jake's fighter launched from the Starfire, Zara established a telepathic link with him. It was necessary for guiding the virus deployment, but it also meant she would share his experience during the mission. She would feel everything he felt, including his death if the mission failed. The Devourer fleet filled space like a dark storm. Their flagship was enormous, easily 10 times larger than any ship Zara had ever seen. Its black hull seemed to absorb all light, making it look like a hole torn in the fabric of space itself. Beginning attack run, Jake reported. Enemy fighters are launching. Zara watched through their telepathic link as Jake's small fighter dove toward the enemy flagship. Devourer interceptors swarmed around him like angry insects, their weapons tearing pieces from his ship's hull. But Jake flew with skill that amazed even Zara, dodging and weaving through the deadly fire. Hull breach in Section 3, Jake reported calmly, though Zara could feel his pain as shrapnel cut into his leg. Still operational. The enemy fire intensified as Jake got closer to the flagship. His shields failed completely, and his weapons were destroyed by enemy hits. But he kept flying, pushing his damaged fighter toward the target with pure determination. "I'm not going to make it to the core computer," Jake said. "The ship's too damaged." "Jake, pull back," Zara said urgently. "We'll find another way." "No, there's still a chance if I can get close enough to the main sensor array. The virus might be able to spread from there." Zara felt Jake's resolve through their mental link. He wasn't going to give up even though his fighter was falling apart around him. She made a decision that went against every tactical principle she knew. All ships provide covering fire for the fighter. Get him to that flagship. The combined human-Alterian fleet opened fire with everything they had, trying to clear a path through the enemy interceptors. Ships exploded on both sides as the desperate battle raged around Jake's lone fighter. "I can see the sensor array," Jake reported. 50 meters and closing. His fighter shook violently as enemy fire nearly tore it in half. Warning lights flashed red across his instrument panel, and Zara could smell burning electronics through their link. But Jake kept flying. 20 meters, 15, 10. At the last moment, Jake triggered the telepathic virus and crashed his fighter directly into the Devourer flagship's main sensor array. The explosion was enormous, but Zara barely noticed it. She was too busy experiencing Jake's memories as their mental link carried her deep into his past. She saw his childhood on a small farming world. She felt his grief when alien raiders killed his parents and younger brother. She experienced his decision to join the colonial Marines to protect others from the same tragedy that had destroyed his family. Most importantly, she felt his genuine sorrow about New Alteria. Jake had tried to convince his superiors to investigate Ambassador Grant's activities, but he had been ignored. He had carried the guilt of her people's deaths for 3 years, just as Zara had carried her anger. The telepathic virus worked exactly as they had hoped. It spread through the Devourer network like wildfire, causing cascade failures throughout their fleet. One by one, the massive enemy ships simply stopped functioning and began drifting dead in space. But Jake's fighter was completely destroyed, and Zara couldn't detect his life signs anywhere in the wreckage. "Emergency transport," she ordered. "Scan for any survivors in the debris field." "Commander, the explosion was too intense," Captain Davis reported gently. Nothing could have survived. Zara stood alone on the bridge, feeling empty in a way she hadn't experienced since her sister's death. Jake Collins had been exactly what she thought no human could be: honorable, selfless, and worthy of trust. And now he was gone. Then Dr. Foster's voice came over the intercom. "Commander, we've got him. Weak life signs, but he's alive." Zara ran to the medical bay faster than she had ever moved in her life. Jake was unconscious and badly injured, but he was breathing. The ship's medical systems were already working to repair the damage from his crash. As she sat beside his bed, waiting for him to wake up, Zara realized that everything had changed. Her hatred for humans hadn't just died with the Devourer fleet. It had been replaced by something she never expected to feel again: hope. When Jake finally opened his eyes 3 days later, the first thing he saw was Zara's face smiling down at him. "Did it work?" he asked weakly. "The Devourers are gone," Zara replied. "You saved everyone." "We saved everyone," Jake corrected. This was a team effort. 6 months later, Commander Zara Vex and Sergeant Jake Collins stood together on the bridge of the first integrated human-Alterian warship. The Phoenix was a symbol of cooperation between their species, crewed by volunteers from both fleets who had chosen to work together. "Incoming transmission from the Outer Rim," reported Lieutenant Kate Morris. "It looks like there might be more Devourer activity near the Centauri systems." Zara looked at Jake, who nodded with determination. They had learned that trust wasn't about species or politics. It was about individuals choosing to keep their word, even when it cost them everything. "Set course for Centauri," Zara ordered. "Let's go protect some people." As the Phoenix jumped to hyperspace, Zara reflected on how much her life had changed. She had begun this journey believing that humans could never be trusted. She was ending it as the partner of a human she would trust with her life. Some betrayals could never be forgiven, but some acts of courage could restore faith in an entire species. Jake Collins had shown her that humans were capable of the greatest heroism in the galaxy. Now it was time to make sure the rest of the universe knew it too.